Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
Welcome to Countercharge. I'm Radosław Brywowski, but easy to spell it is to say Radek. That's what I'm known for.
And I'm Matt Croger. And welcome to our special episode with the dominator of the UK, Bry. I had a tap on the shoulder from Steve Hildrew. He said, "Yeah, you have to interview Radek. You have to interview Radek. He's a great guy." So we've made it happen, and I'm very glad we've had.
I wouldn't say dominator, was like squeezing through like slippery eel. That's more fitting description.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that that's quite enjoyable about this, Radek, is that they don't. These guys from the UK, they don't seem to have any, let's just say, born and bred citizens who seem to be able to win their own tournaments very frequently, particularly their big ones. And of course, you being Polish to start with, and taking out the UK Masters, like you might be native to the UK now, but geez, these born and bred British need to get better at their own game, don't they?
There's something to it, but there's still many very good, British players, and yeah, they can dominate. But it seems like Tom Robinson, he have a very unique like kryptonite that Polish players playing halflings is his weakness, and I fit into that description perfectly.
Watch them become more and more prevalent at tournaments now. Polish players playing halflings, that's just at these big tournaments.
Seems to be a theme. True.
Yeah. No, so excellent. I don't know why anyone took any British advice in the during the wars, like looking at the results on the tabletop. So we'll just see. But Radek, first time on Countercharge, so. We're very pleased to have you, but everyone will be interested in how you got into wargaming, and then particularly Kings of War.
So that is a very nice, I like to say the story, because when I was a little kid, around 6-7 years ago, I was playing with the army soldiers, the little plastic soldiers that, kids played. And I thought, oh my gosh, it would be so amazing if these miniatures, these things had rules. So yes, so that's what I was craving. And then when I was 13, my friend introduced me to Lord of the Rings by Games Workshop, because we had like a monthly magazine that was giving some cheap models, and that's why in Poland I started to do that. Since when I was getting more and more into wargaming, I went through Warhammer 40k, then it was some niche games like Anima Tactics, War Machine, Infinity. And then when I went to UK, I got very much into Malifaux, and I started playing Kings of War, I think 1.5 years ago, when one of my friends, he said that he was shown a 10 millimeters version of Kings of War. And I always wanted to play, when I was, had more experience with wargaming, the tiny miniatures I thought was amazing. So when I tried and I made my tiny dwarfs army, it was so fun. I wanted to just play more. But 10 millimeters is not as popular, so I wanted to play more, and I asked some tournament organizers in UK if I can use my tiny 10 millimeters dwarfs on bigger bases just to play against someone else. And yes, Rob, he allowed me to play into the war up north with 10 millimeters dwarfs, and I just said, oh my god, the community is so welcoming, the game is so amazing, I just need to buy a full army. I looked what is cheap, what is nice to buy, what's nice looking Mantic, because I wanted to contribute to Mantic, I wanted to buy Mantic army, that's why I went to halflings, and that was a very good choice, it seems.
Yeah, it seems that it was. And you've still, I'm hoping you've still got your 10 millimeter army. Have you managed to convince anyone else to go into the 10 mil scale and have some games at that scale?
I do have some of my friends that are thrown out around the UK, so we meet like twice a year or 3 times a year at my place, and then we play the 10 millimeters. I also have one friend that was a bit, he's more closer, and he played his elves with 10 millimeters. So I played that a little bit, but again, it's very, very niche, so it's harder. So I think now I also try to get those friends into full version because it's just so easier to get games.
Yeah, it's we've got a guy locally who loves the small scale like that too, and we've got a massive, like if you put it in the larger scale, we'd probably have, it must be about 4,000 or 5,000 points of undead in 10 mil, but we haven't got the next stage of getting printing another army to do against it yet. But yeah, no, we like the idea of it, and our plan had been, it was a War Master army, and our plan had been basically to actually leave everything the same, but just have more units on the table at 10 mil, so that flying 20 inches when you've got a tiny little model actually feels like you're going a long way, and it actually feels more thematic. Did you what kind of tweaks did you make tweaks for your 10 mil gaming?
So exactly the same rules. The only difference is that we have all the measurements. So like a 50 by 50 base becomes 25 by 25.
We were talking off air of that as you've been, trying to move into a field that you were already trained in your country of birth, which unfortunately a lot of migrants have to deal with in many countries. I know it's terrible for migrants in Australia, pretty much needing to retrain in their own fields. But that you brought up wargaming in your interview for your current job, and your boss quite liked it.
Yes. He appreciated that when you have lots of rules and you have to interpret it and work with that fit well with the accountancy, and that yes, and it was like a little bit more that was make me more basically it looked better on my CV, and he decided that that's like a turning point to hire me, which is amazing because your parents usually when you have hobby like that, they are not very supportive, like, oh, why are you wasting time with those games, you could do something better. Turns out it went well in the end.
Yeah, that is so awesome. If anyone listening has a story, because I don't think there'll be many, of how wargaming's helped them out in their workplace, they should drop a comment on the Facebook page under this episode, because I'd love to hear about it. And Radek, as having played a whole bunch of tabletop games and through a variety of genres, from fantasy, more high fantasy, to other stuff, to sci-fi and Malifaux and whatever. What was it about Kings that grabbed you? Because is it now your more singular game, or do you still play multiple games?
I currently, because I try to reduce it a bit, I'm Malifaux and Kings of War, but more Kings of War lately because I've been playing Malifaux for years, and I play it on a quite high level. And the Malifaux is amazing game. It gives you so much control, so much thought, but it's also very complicated. It's a very, very complicated game when every single model have loads of rules, and there's just multiple interactions between rules when rules, and when there's so much of it for years, you can get a little bit tiring. So when I found Kings of War, it's simple. It's simple to learn, harder to master, but the simplicity is just amazing. Just, something like between heaven and earth, having a very complicated game and then having something a bit simpler that you can also enjoy. That was like what brought me into it more. And then I found out after a few games and more that the balance is just amazing, because through so many years, a lot of times when I was playing on tournaments, I felt like some players, they just brought the most powerful net list and just steamrolled everyone else. But in Kings of War, I haven't noticed that the balance is just astonishing for me from my 22 years of career of wargaming.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I've never played Malifaux, but my understanding is part of that interaction is it gives you quite a flavourful game. How do you find the immersion and flavour in Kings of War for that simplicity? I'm the same as you. Like I almost find it's kind of like a stage of life game, right? At some point, you don't want to be learning all those interactions. You just like, I want to play tabletop war games. So give me something that I can learn everything, that I don't have to play 5 times a week to learn everything. But what about the flavour side for you? How do you find that?
I think it's amazing because in Kings of War you can have those dioramas basically. That it's the base, so you can make even like a story looking units, and I still think the setting is even more appealing to me, because the mantic try onto things, dwarves, elves, is a little bit different, and I really really enjoy it. I immerse myself, and when I play I make like jokes, and I think like last tournament I did a lightning bolt and 1 damage to a snow fox unit, and just rolled 10 twice, and they just run away because the little fox was scared of the lightning. Oh no, there's a thunder, we run away. Or there was another moment when there was like my opponent had a massive Night Stalker Titan unit, and it was like a female model. She went into my Naiads unit and just in one round rolled well, just destroyed the whole regiment. So she says like, "Oh, your fashion sense is hideous. Go away." And my Naiad says, "Oh, she's right. We don't know how to wear the clothes," and just run away. So yeah, I really try to immerse myself to game and find those little funny interactions.
Sounds like you'd have no trouble entertaining yourself at home, Radek, as well. And do you have do you have a reasonably sized local group that you get to play Kings of War with, or?
Well, no. We started growing a scene for a few months ago, because I have a very good, healthy Malifaux group. But also me and my friend James, we got also into Kings of War, and when he realized, oh, there's another one person to play, we started playing together. Then Dan King, he emerged from his slumber when he had a big pause between games. He was like some real life issues, and he had to stop playing for a bit. But now he emerged, and we play with 3 of us. We're trying to get more, try to convince the Malifaux players to try a little bit of Kings of War, but we don't want to just steal them. We want them to play both games.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, because what part of the UK are you in, Radek?
So I'm living in Warrington, which is between Liverpool and Manchester, and now I'm traveling to Stockport to the Element Games, the massive gaming venue there, and yeah, we play in Element Games.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Well, I don't know, you might not have had a chance to listen to because it only came out yesterday, but our Kings of War Champions episode, that might be a version of the game that, the friends can try out that has a bit of flavour. Like it's not exactly the same as Kings, but it has those themes in there where people can basically just buy one box. The units have themes and a character, and maybe it'll help get more people into Kings of War. You never know.
I think we're doing quite well. At least 6 people are starting to get armies now in that element group. So we are growing. It's a slow process, but yeah, it looks very promising. And the more we play,
that's awesome.
the more we can hopefully attract more players.
Yeah, that's great. And so we might slide into what we're doing in the hobby at the moment. Radek, have you, after your big win and you've got your halfling army, what are you working on now? Do you expand it? Do you start something new, or do you just settle in and keep going with what you've got? What are you doing in the hobby?
So there's a funny thing, because I hate painting. I never enjoyed it, and I still don't. But I think a few months ago, in a span of 3 weeks, I made my Forces of Nature army. I got some naiads, some lizards, and I was recycling my war machine units as the elementals. And some other, again, like from Anima Tactics, Dead Systems, I was changing them. There's really nice, druids onto the square bases, so the army just went quite fast. And sadly, the more I play Forces of Nature, the less naiads and salamanders I use, and I get more elementals. So it just looks like my list through the months is doing an industrial revolution when the infantry is getting replaced by the warjacks from War Machine.
Well, we'll have to do a list building episode with you at some stage. That's like more of a generic about how you go about crafting a list, and maybe we should focus on that whatever nature list you come up with in the end, because that would be interesting to follow that that path through for you, and how you think about what's working and not working.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. That
Yeah.
would be nice. To be fair, last weekend there was a 2-day tournament in Elements, the War Up North 4. So and yeah, I took Force of Nature to that one, and it was quite okay. I was second. I lost to Tom Robinson, but I even got a challenge from Chris Lynch to round one. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, he came to me. He's gonna destroy me, devastate me.
Yeah.
But he outplayed me massively. So then I decided to abandon reasoning and go for murder, and it worked out in the
Yeah.
end.
Oh, so yeah, you put him in his place. You smacked him down. Was that the one where? Is that the tournament where Steve Hildrew just gave him a mystery list to play with?
Oh no, I
Or
don't
that hasn't
think so.
happened? No.
No, that's
No.
different because
Okay.
I think he had his nice Empire of Dust list, but he after the game he said, oh, he should use something he's more well known, that he's more confident with. He should use his Northern Alliance, but he brought Empire of Dust, and
Oh,
somehow it went
look at
my way.
him. Yeah, look at him, Chris, making excuses. Oh,
Oh
I'm
no,
not
no, no, no!
confident.
He played
Yeah, yeah.
very, very well, but yeah, somehow at the end it went my way. So I was just very, very pleased with the
Yeah,
result.
and of course you lost to Tom because you brought the Polish, but you didn't bring the halflings. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yeah. It was a very close, enjoyable game, but little mistakes, little dice not going that way, and Tom he just plays so well. So if you don't do a perfect game, he will. He showed me my play. Sadly.
yeah. I'm looking forward at some point. It's just a matter of time and having I need to because I've got so many Mantic armies on the go that I'll probably just print them because I've got some really good files. But I want to do an Empire of Dust list that's got mostly worm-based models, including 3 bone dragons, and I've called it I'm Super Worm.
Oh no, my God!
So,
That's interesting. Yeah.
I want to put that on the table at some point, just out of interest. Yeah. Well, and for me, with my hobby updates, I think if people listen to I'm trying to think of what the last show was I recorded. Oh, the Clash of Kings Asia episode that I think it came out a couple of days ago. I've been assembling some models, so I've put together 2 hordes of lower abyssals, or roughly 2 hordes, and I've got to start, getting them painted, but I just haven't had a chance to undercoat them. Once they get undercoated, I don't mind, like even not usually through interviews like this, like they're a good opportunity for me to just paint away a little bit, but getting the time to properly get them outside and spray them is often the first barrier for me. I got to get past, but hopefully that'll be fixed soon. I did 1 test model for them, and I've got some tweaks I think I want to do to the color scheme. So, and then we'll just see where we end up. But I'm looking forward to building that Abyssal army. And before we get into our main topic, we'll just run into some announcements. So, as I spoke about earlier, if you haven't heard our Kings of War Champions episode, jump on and have a listen to that, because the releases will be coming thick and fast through April. So if people want to jump on some purchasing there, of course, you've got our episode at Mantic. I'm sure we'll be releasing more videos. The interview with Rob Berman and Andy Burtis, I think is a great one, and it sounds like a great little game. So people jump into that. We're having a few little issues with our hobby challenge. So we're a little bit undecided on where that's going, but there should be some announcements one way or another on that very soon. So with that, let's take a quick break and we'll be back with our main topic.
Hello, this is Duncan Rhodes from the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy, and you're listening to Countercharge.
And welcome back. So now we're going to talk all things UK Masters, where the Polish halfling came in and, fled with all the loot.
All the pies.
All the pies, exactly. So you mentioned already, Radek, you took halflings, but before we get into your list, we might just have a chat about, in general, this year you got 24 people there. We know that the UK Masters, they do things so they've got a certain amount of people ranked at the top who get an invite, and then I think there's something like the top rank for each army, if they've qualified, get an invite or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So this top 16, they have the choice whatever they play, and then if they don't play one army, like if someone is in top 16 and he plays Twilight King and he decides to play something different, then the top player of Twilight King, he gets an invite.
Excellent. Okay, that's an interesting way to go about it. And it was 5 games?
Yes, 5 games.
Yeah, 5 games. So 3 and 2 across 2 days?
Yes, correct.
Yep. What scoring system? Was it blackjack this year?
I think it was. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of blackjack, but yeah, that was actually a blackjack scoring system.
And so, 24 players, 5 games, blackjack. Oh, sorry, who was the TO officially?
Oh,
Bob. It was Bob, wasn't it? From Jen and Bob.
Yes, Bob.
Yes,
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Bob came up with the maps and the terrain, which seemed to have a bit of variation on say in inverted commas, normal themes, which I quite like. So it seemed like that round by round there might have been a bit of mixing up of how much of each type of terrain there was on the table. Is that correct?
Yes. It had a variety from the normal, the epic dwarf maps, but yeah.
Did everyone use the same map per round?
Yes. Yeah. So everyone was setting this for the round. There's the same map. That's the common in the UK. That for each round everyone plays on the same map, and then you just rearrange the table every round.
And for Masters in the UK, do they have any specific hobby requirements, like any minimum standards or anything like that, in order to compete that you can recall?
I don't remember. The thing is, I usually have everything sorted and painted and done ages before I go to a tournament, so I don't even really read those things. So sorry, I'll have to check the rules pack and backtrack it because I just don't remember.
No, that's okay. But it sounds like in general, and I mean, if we eventually do a list builder episode with you, this would be interesting to explore. But it sounds like you don't pay too much attention to the extra bits, like what the scoring system or whatever it is, because for you, you'll just play the game and the objective, and if you win, you win.
Yeah. Again, I have been playing Kings of War yet for too long, so I just play for fun. Every game is just fun and fun and games, literally. So I'm just trying to enjoy because I didn't have before a big community, so just going to tournaments was the opportunity to just have more games of Kings of War.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. All right. And of course, we've alluded to it a couple of times now, but if you, you took halflings to the tournament. I'm just going to bring up your list here and I'll run through it and then we can have a little bit of a chat about it. But you took a horde of braves, which at 130 points are just such good value, aren't they? I mean, obviously they get into combat and they just hit with rotten fruit that does no damage, but it's but that's okay. That's not their job, Then two regiments of the Edge Grenadiers, as I like to say, and people like to abuse me for online. Forest Trolls horde with Brew of Haste. 3 regiments of Lancers with Relentless. Regiment of Aeronauts with Blade of Slashing, 2 Iron Beasts, 1 with the upgrade to Pride of the Shires, Muster Captain on foot with the Sure-Footed Captain upgrade, a Sorcerer also on foot with the Hot Pot, so that's re-rolling 1s on the Gastromancy rolls, Greedy Guts, which is probably the most unusual thing in your list in terms of what people normally take. I've run him a couple of times in the deep past and I've always liked him. But I always found his lack of inspiring problematic. But yeah. And then 2 winged muster captains, both with Relentless as well. So, not a huge amount of magic items. And I should say this would, of course, been played without command dice, which to me makes the Lancer's choices very interesting because it's not like you're getting the extra bonus Thunderous Charge on command dice or something like that. But they are cheap, aren't they? So that's a benefit for them. Although the other I think there's a lot that makes this list very interesting for me. I think first before we go into that though, maybe let's let's talk about halflings in general. So I play halflings myself. I really love the theme. I do find what I really like about them for a Mantic army is they do need synergies to work within the list, which I think makes them really interesting and stimulating to play. Probably makes it a little bit harder sometimes for the opponent to know what you're doing, which, if you're the player using them, probably is a good thing.
Yeah.
Do you find the same thing, Radek? Like, talk to me about how you find halflings in general to play.
Absolutely agree. Yes, they are the combined arms army. I think you need to make those synergies. You make to put thought into what you're doing, test it, get smashed, get some thought about it, and then try again. And say I really enjoyed that part of halfling, but there's not like one super strong unit that you can spam and try. You have to make those synergize. You need, because yeah, every unit have like some weakness. You try to overcome. You try to compensate. So yeah, I think that's the how flexible and flavorful and how much you can get from halflings makes it's amazing as an army to try and play and have fun.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier with your Forces of Nature list that it went through a fair bit of evolution. Did your Halflings list, or is this kind of just what you built and you ended up here?
Oh no, no, absolutely. My halflings, they were just going a lot. Like I was trying poachers, then I had one list with 4 regiments of poachers, and I got absolutely obliterated because they were in each other way. I couldn't be shooting properly. So yeah, this list actually was after many games on some little tournaments, maybe some little casuals traveling around and on Universal Battle, I found out that, well, maybe just let's abandon shooting and try to have some lots of cheap dogs and fast stuff and just go into my opponent's face and make him think, not me.
Yeah, because what do we got? We've got 15 units and 27 unit strength at 2,300 points. So, and pretty much, I know you've got 3 drops that don't score, but that still means you've got 12 that do. Yeah, I've kind of found the same thing as you. I've found that little bit of combined arms, because obviously you've still got the little bit of shooting, does seem to be, yeah, tiny bit, probably does seem to be often the better way. I feel like it only does volume shooting really well if you basically go all shooting. So which then obviously has other weaknesses. Tell me about some of the units in this list. So, and in particular, at face value, obviously a big weakness would be its low defense, other than the Iron Beasts. And did you come up against anyone that had quite a bit of shooting or quite a bit of good shooting or anything like that? Or was that one of those like lucky things for the weekend that you didn't see any of those? Or
Oh, I was playing against Jay with his elves, with his massive amount of shooting. So yeah, there were dead halflings making like a porcupine with all the arrows, the dogs being wounded. There's lots of death from afar because of those bloody elves with so many shooting attacks. But I found out that was what I was when I was playing against my friend Lucas. He told me against shooting armies, you just have to run in front of them, lose few units, just deal with the losses, and try then to get into combat and show them that they don't have time to aim those arrows at you if you have your fist into their faces.
and was because most of his shooting, I can't remember his list, was much of it from Seaguard, because I guess part of the problem there is that you try and rush them, but then you get the -1 when you're trying to hit them because of the phalanx.
Actually, he had 2 units of Glade Stalkers. He had, I think, 1 or 2 Sea Guards. He had some combat stuff, but he also like the chariots and oh my gosh, I don't know the regiment of the horse archers.
All right, yeah. Yes, I know what you mean. Their name's Silver Breeze Cavalry.
Yes, Silver Breast
Yes.
Cavalry, yes, the regiment of those. So yeah, that's quite a lot of it. It wasn't spam of Seaguard, luckily for me, because all those dogs and flying RLSs would be problematic. But that's why I also have trolls, balloons, and pigs, because they don't care about phalanx.
The Lancers. So I find this part interesting in the list. One, because they're only Thunderous 1 for one, and in the Halfling list you don't, particularly without command dice, you don't really have options to boost that outside of magic items. You've given them Relentless, which obviously for one turn will output their damage just a little bit. Tell me about coming to taking a few units of those. They're nice and mobile, but also the fact that your sorcerer is on foot, makes it a little bit harder for your sorcerer to keep up and buff their nerve, because they're only 12, 14 in nerve. So how do you make the Lancers work for you in this list?
Well, they run around, they got shot, so one regiment or two can die, maybe not, hopefully not. If they can get some cover, because with the Strider Aura Captain, you can move into some terrain, get cover, hopefully not die, get the Rallying Aura from the Sorcerer, and then when you have dogs spread around, flying edge grenadiers, and all those, oh my gosh, pigeons. No, they are called proper names. I don't know proper names. Master Captain or Winged Arrowless. When you spread out wide, sometimes you're gonna get a flank. And the regiment of dogs with 14 attacks on freeze, when they get into the flank, 28 attacks, this is putting some damage, some nice damage. And when then around turn 3 or 4, when you're undogged, all those 3 regiments of lancers are absolutely dead or go home, then your opponent have to deal with the Iron Beasts. And they are defense 6, so when he's already weakened and he doesn't have as much counter because you hopefully you took some things, the Iron Beasts, they grind well.
For you, it sounds like rather than, say, deploy in a tight formation with this halfling list, you actually, because it's so mobile, you try and spread it out and therefore spread your opponent out. And it sounds like, a lot of people, if they've got that speedy list and it falls into, I wouldn't call this an alpha list at all, but if it does get towards the alpha type list, they tend to think, well, they still can't charge early because it all falls apart. But because your fast things are a bit more disposable, you're actually trying to get them into combat quite early in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Disposable dogs. Oh my gosh, that sounds so horrible.
Well, someone's got to die for the cause, right? Yeah.
Halfling best friend.
Yes, exactly. So that's really interesting. And did you find it difficult to keep your characters on foot up when you're trying to do that early in the game? Or is it because, I guess the good thing about the Muster Captain and the Sorcerer is the abilities that you've got them there for, don't need, you're allowed to move at the double, right? And it's not going to affect that. So
yeah, so turn 1 usually, both of them run around, and Master Captain, he only needs to be within 6 when they start the charge, and later, you don't always go fully forward with the dogs, and you only try to get some 1 or 2 units within the cooking magic, the sorcerer aura, and then after they charge, she can still run 10, hopefully get some in the range. And mostly is that when she switches from rallying to brutal, when the pigs go in and you get some pigs attacks with brutal, hopefully free, not always, not very common, but when it gets brutal, pun intended.
Yeah, awesome. And tell me about how Greedy Guts comes to appear in this list.
MVP. Since I started using him, he's the best unit in my list. He's making almost the reason why I have the useless horde of Braves, because I don't like them at all. I absolutely don't enjoy the Braves. I don't like unit that doesn't do anything. But I wanted Greedy Guts. And it's again the same thing when my dogs go in, they do some damage, then die, then the pigs go into the Scrabble. The Greedy Guts as like a second wave, he looks around, there is a unit that is already wounded. Let's finish them off. And he goes in with my chant of go, go, Gritty Guts, and he always delivers. That 8 attacks with Crushing 1 is just the tipping point. And with the Dread, he synergizes with when you don't let him die too early. He does so well, and if you get that rallying 2, he becomes dash 18. Like, come on at me, bro! I am halfling, yo.
Yeah, of course, because he does have the ravenous keyword, and
Exactly.
that if he goes into the right unit, he can last quite a while with that life leech 3, right? And of course, the dread is the dread can be special.
Now they'll combine. So is the choice like, should I try to get brutal 2 or 3 with the sorcerer? But on the other one, when you have the dread aura of Gritty Guts, and then you can still go rallying, then the pigs and Gritty Guts, they can survive a little more, or even the winged arrowless captains. So I think the ability for having the dread on all the way around than the sorcerer, or having the dread and the rally, is a very nice. But it's just he's just so good at finishing units off late game and middle game.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you find so with the sorcerer and gastromancy, do you ever find yourself using anything except for brutal and rallying?
So 95% is rally. If I choose anything else, it's a bad choice. But sometimes when you see, well, I have to try to get this combat through, I go for the brutal. The amazing thing is the rally is an option. So when your opponent asks you what is the threat range of your dogs, you say usually 16, but it can go up to 19. And then your opponent have to take the choice. Does he wants to put on 17 inches, 18, 19 away? So it put an extra pressure and the option that, yes, they can go more. And
but you rarely find yourself using the wild charge. You're using it more for the threat.
Yes. There was one situation when against Jay, I needed the wild charge 2 to have my unit of dogs flank charge his Silver Breeze cavalry. So I went for it. I rolled the wild charge 2. They went into the Silver Breeze on freeze, 28 attacks, and they whiffed so badly they didn't even waver them.
Right.
Another regret of not doing this rally.
Yeah, it would be interesting that for me that if they do keep gastromancy or something, which I hope they do in version 4, is whether there's any thought to, looking at what the auras are, if they stay as auras or whatever, because I just think, like you say, some of it's a threat, but, life leech is so infrequently used. I know it's sometimes good as an option, but, it'd be interesting whether they decide to play with those a little bit because, yeah.
I have an amazing idea. Maybe they should do it like you can use each hour once per game, but you don't have to roll it automatically, like Rally 2, Life Leech 2, Brutal 2, or, the Rally... Yeah, oh my gosh. Life Leech, Brutal, Wild Charge. So because, you have gastromancy, but have limited ingredients what you can cook. Well, I already cooked that. I don't have this meat anymore. I don't have this cabbage. I need to just cook something else now.
Yeah, and I think I would like the, as the halfling player, I would like the consistency of it. And then I think that becomes somewhat better for the opponent too, because it's a little bit more predictable, right? Although I guess if you've only got one, you run out of them before the end of the game. I mean, they might say that that's okay. Or you have 2 uses of each per game or something, and so you won't use them all. But, maybe a bit of predictability would be good. Yeah, I don't mind that idea. And yeah, at least if you do go through one, your opponent knows exactly, what you've got left. But you probably also have to be more judicious about when you use yours, right? If you're that first turn, unless you're coming up against heavy shooting, you probably won't waste one of your rallying. But then what else would you do?
Yeah, true.
So,
well, actually, maybe at turn 1, she's just preparing the ingredients, chopping everything, waiting, hitting the pot. It's not time yet.
Oh, well, that would be an interesting addition. If you choose not to do something in the turn, maybe the next one you get a bonus.
Oh, that's
Mm.
an amazing
Yeah,
idea.
time
Yeah.
for extra spices. They can call it balancing the flavor.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, definitely. Just go even deeper into the cooking theme of the rules. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's a good run through of your list. I mean, you say Greedy Guts is the MVP, but how good are muster winged captains?
Well, the thing is, I would like to say most of people when looking at my list, they say, "Well, this does not look like a strong list." So that's the thing. If your opponent doesn't know how it works, you don't know how it works. You just run around like a crazy halfling, don't know what's going on, and just punching and bouncing around. Then it, it turns out well for the halflings. It's in the theme of little crazy stunties. But yeah, but sadly the RLSs, well, they are, I think, undercosted. They are just so amazing on paper, on table. They are the main hitting unit of the halflings, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you compare them to other lists, they could be a little bit undercosted. But I think in the context of this list, you don't have a lot of options for hitting power. So, and I kind of feel like if they were, I feel like if they were 220 or 230, you probably wouldn't take two. You might consider it, but I do think a lot of opponents forget that quite a few of the characters do have Ravenous as well. I think people do tend to think of it in terms of the units proper, not so much the characters. I certainly know, given I haven't put them on the table that many times, I sometimes forget it's on the characters too. And which comes into, I mean, that's the thing about the halflings, right? Is that your individual, like in some armies, you can get your individual placements a little bit wrong because they're individuals and they're mobile and things like that. But to get the maximum out of this list, your positioning of your characters relative to your units has to be perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Particularly if you're spreading out like your style. Like if you're spreading out, you really need them to be able to influence as many units as possible.
Yeah, but I found out that in my list, actually, I have quite a lot of inspiring because both captains are inspiring, the master captain is very inspiring, and both pigs are inspiring.
Yeah, you do have quite a bit in that regard. Yeah. Great. Oh well, that was a nice run through your list. So let's have a bit more of a chat about the tournament proper now. And so as we said, it was 5 games across 2 days, and your first game was against a man who on the companion only has one name, just like Beyonce, Richard, right? And he was taking Riff Forge Orcs. Do you remember much about this game? We should say, this is quite a while. It's been, what was it, January 18 or 19 or something that the tournament ran, so we can't expect high levels of detail here. But
Actually,
do you vaguely remember the strengths and weaknesses of this game?
Yes. So against Richard, we have somehow, if we are in the tournament, we are gonna play each other. Doesn't matter how many
Yeah.
people there is. I played him on Clash of Kings, and every tournament we go, we gonna play each other.
And yeah, right. It's funny how those matchups keep happening, isn't it? And
Yes.
I should say, if where you remember the scenario, if you tell us what the scenario was as well.
Hold the line. So the middle zone costs 3 and the sides cost 2. And I remember I was quite lucky at the beginning, and I was doing very, very well. But then I made a mistake with not putting my trolls properly. So there was a moment where they couldn't charge his cavalry of orcs and couldn't finish them off. And those orcs survived. They rolled very well to counter, and they killed one of my pigs. And there was, from something that was looking like a very nice win for me, it was falling apart. So obviously I had to push the panic button and run around like a crazy halfling. But at the very, very end, I managed to pull a little tiny win. I think it was like something in a blackjack, and I saw it was 15 points, maybe 16. I don't remember the exactly points, but yes, it was very, very close. But the very end, I got, I think, 2 zones, either two sides and he at the middle or something like that. And yeah, I managed to squeeze a win, but it was very nail-biting, very close game. It's amazing in Kings of War, you can do very well, but one mistake and everything can start falling apart, especially with squishy halflings.
Oh, yeah. The amount of times I've had a Kings game where I feel completely in control and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, how did I end up here? Yeah. Or particularly against some armies with, like, you feel really in control of the game, but against things like ogres, which then have so many scoring units. And then you're like, oh, actually, even though I feel like I've been murdering everything, I'm still only on track for a draw. Yeah. Yeah. And interesting because as soon as you said hold the line, and obviously I don't know Richard's list, but looking just at my feeling with Reforge Orcs when I've tried to build lists is that they tend to do better as a really bunched up army rather than a spread out army. So my feeling would have been that you would have had a little bit of an advantage in that regard, that like you want to spread out anyway. And so that's going to have him thinking about, how do I control this? Would you say that's fair, or did he not bunch up? Or
No, he spread all out. Yeah, they had some cavalry and some orcs on the left flank, lots of units on the middle, and then quite a few flying monsters and the berserkers on the right. So yeah, we were like a big wide line. So yeah, there was lots of back and forth, and one flank collapsing, another one looking bad for my. So yeah, it was swirling around in the like whirlpool of violence.
Yeah, right. And I guess, I mean, maybe against you because he knew you were going to spread out. Probably Reforge Orcs would think that they could do it in that type of scenario fairly well because they probably feel that any unit one-on-one will be able to take yours.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, I had to, but I was out threatening him, so it was like he had to play a little bit with counters, except the Rift Fork, they have those charging for like 19 or more inches cavalry because the overlapping auras.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so second up, you had a game against Robert Hudson. I haven't heard that name before, and I'm just looking for him on the rankings. There he is. And so he was playing dwarfs.
Yes.
Yep. And was he playing a fairly standard dwarf list, the formation plus a bit of extra stuff? Can you remember?
Yes. There was formation and, 2 regiments of the Defense 6 dwarves. They were the, Gorlock's Fury. I think he had 3 dwarf lords on the large beast. So loads of high defense, lots of grinding possibilities, and tough dwarf list. And I outkilled him with halflings.
Yeah, well, I actually was just looking at the table again, and what's fascinating, particularly given your list and, like I said, the lack of like high crushing options, because a lot of people with their lists talk about you have to have high crossing, you have to have your answers to defense 6, right? Which, obviously is hiding in your list a bit, and the muster captains and the pigs. But yeah, I was just looking at the attrition points, and you were second top in attrition by the end of the tournament too, and by some margin. So there was an undead player with 9,740. You had 9,560, and then the next was below 9,000. Was like roughly at 8,900 in James Mitchell with their elves. Yeah, I find that really surprising. I mean, I guess that probably, plays into what you're saying about your play style is your goal is to get into combat and to take things off, right?
Yes.
And then have enough units left to win the scenario. So how did you do it against these dwarves? Was it literally the mobility of your army? And also, if you remember, what was the scenario?
Oh, the scenario was the one when you have one objective in the middle and 3 objectives 12 inches from 6 inches from 12 inches from the middle, but you have to burn them to score points and protect yours. Completely forgot the name of the scenario.
Oh yeah, what is that called? Is it Raise?
Yes, I think it's Raise.
Raise, yes.
Possibly Raise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was that thing. He didn't want to spread out, but because of how impassable terrain and this scenario make it that he had to spread out a little bit, he had to use, I think, two of his dwarf lords on one flank, which were in a Faber, whatever he's called, the gun dwarf, and I think 1 or 2 units of those dwarf lords. They had to deal with my trolls that were trying to get objectives and my edge grenadiers burning one, and then the rest of my army trying to get the flanks and rears and stuff to kill his. And actually what helped me with killing a lot was the pigs charging off the hill with crushing free and trying to get some flanks and stuff, some good rolls. They were able to do that, and then with the scrum, say the master captains and the greedy gods and some flank charts, yes, I was able to just slowly but carefully grind through his dwarves. Yeah, it was shocking, but well, it worked.
Yeah, I'm sure he was shocked as well.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, wait, halflings with that list, I'll grind the dwarves, how? And then I see at the game, like, yeah, I don't know it either.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel I'm just seeing if I can find it on the UK Masters site. I'll go to season 24, but I still feel like on balance that halflings are still one of those Mantic armies that haven't made it to the table in high volume. So I feel like there's still a lot of people that don't have heaps of experience against them. I don't know. I mean, that's certainly the case there's certainly a few in Australia, particularly with high-level players, but I don't feel like that they're extremely prevalent. Do you feel like that's the same in the UK?
Yeah, I think so, because I took the best halflings from Ben Hampshire, and he was playing them for quite a bit, but I think he also got a bit tired with them, tried something different. On Clash of Kings, I think there was quite a few halflings, and they do tend to go to events, but not as popular, true, and not doing so well that people have to keep killing those little fat stunties.
Yeah, no, well, I'm just on them. I mean, the UK Masters side is so good. I think that's attributed to a couple of people behind the Masters Council, but it's got things like how many times an army has been played. And so for those that have never checked it out, kowmasters.com, we can put a link in the show notes if I remember. But it tells you how many times it's been played, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th most played army, so it's not right up there, and it's significantly lower than the most. We've got ogres and dwarves, and Northern Alliance is 90, 85, and 80. Undead 61, salamanders 60, abyssal dwarves 59, night stalkers 58, and then halflings at 55. So, yeah, certainly less prevalent than some, and I think the number of players. It's a little bit higher, so it's about the 7th most played in terms of number of players. But in terms of podiums, it slips down the list, actually, quite significantly. Yeah, so it's about the 12th most podiumed army, something like that, in the UK. So, yeah, that's interesting in terms of halflings, I think. So, I mean, I believe that there's probably quite a few players that aren't that experienced against it yet.
True.
So that brought us onto the last day, the last game of the day, and you were playing against Ian Sturgis, who ended up coming 4th overall with Trident Realms of Neritica. And interestingly, again, I would think at face value, depending on the structure of his list, could be a challenging matchup with the Ensnare. But again, you would tend to be more mobile than he is, I'd imagine. So tell us about this, including scenario.
That was an amazing game because it's streamed actually. So the game 3 is streamed. It's somewhere. I might try to find the link later, but the game is recorded.
So that's on Steve Hildrew's website, the Death by Dragons website, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
so,
yes,
yeah,
correct.
People can check it out there.
You're absolutely correct. Oh, my memory is not that good nowadays, but nevertheless, you can watch it, and I think the commentators had amazing fun with it because Ian, he set up lots of traps to try to bait me into going in, but I think he didn't realize that my bloodthirst is unresistible for me. So I went into all of the traps, everything. I just sent the dogs and trolls and everything. Go fishing. And I think, when you have ensnare, but they have low defense, so the wild lances hitting on fours, that's still some damage. And I think I got like a semi-lucky waiver. Some rolls went my way, some even better. And then the crucial turning point of the game was when he asked me turn 1 how high is a Master Captain Winged Arrowless, and I said it's height 5. And by the time of turn 2 he forgot it, and I had my captain behind the height 3 hill, and he showed me flank of his Kraken to Master Captain and Edge Grenadiers. So they just went in and just splat him, and then things started to fall apart for him and just go very well for me. And the greedy guys, I think he killed like 3 or 4 units that game.
Oh wow. Okay. And I mean that's what you say about kings, isn't it? Because often if you're trying to play that turn ahead, you're really thinking about how your units are positioned. So if you make a mistake like that with the flank, you've probably positioned the rest of your units to not have that mistake in mind, right? So it can be hard to then repivot. So that makes sense. And like you say, when they do get in a flank, those muster captains can do some hard work because they're hitting on threes and so probably getting a good 10 to 12 hits and then most of those wounding and
especially when you first attack with the Edge Grenadiers and hope that can do like a 1 or 2 wounds, so then you can use a Relentless to make those odds even more in your favor. As we say, combined arms, you have to try to charge something that allows the other unit to use the Relentless.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that had you finishing day 1 undefeated. And then you've alluded to this game already, but then you came up against Jay Mitchell with their elves. What was the scenario here? And you've talked a little bit about it. And so you've talked about basically that they had a significant shooting army. Basically, the goal was rush them.
Yes. So I think that smoke and mirror when we were putting the bluff counters and flipping them. And James, sadly, he got first turn. He started shooting me. He wavered one of my Arales on double sixes, and some of my units took a heavy toll of his shooting. And then my first turn and second turn was horrible. So I thought, oh my gosh, I lost this game. Well, whatever. It is what it is. But then somehow, as the game went, some good choices, some good rolls, it pulled me back through, and I managed to squeeze win by flying Edge Grenadiers into corner to get the 2 points, and then trying to block him so he couldn't go through and score another. So I just outplayed on scenario at the very end when things were dying left and right. Elves were getting tired. Oh my gosh, how much can you shoot those halflings? Let's go home, eat dinner. There's no point carrying on here. And the halflings were being dead. But I still don't know how I pulled that from the first 2 horrible turns, but I managed to squeeze a win.
Yeah, excellent. And was there a weakness in Jay's list that you were trying to exploit? I mean, I'm guessing with shooting that most of it, if it was heavy shooting, there's a fair amount of lower defense again. So again, it's that once you rush it and if you get the wounds through, it can die pretty easily.
Well, they tend to, but I think turn 2 I went into his Glade Walkers with my Edge Grenadiers and Dogs. Dogs failed to even waver them. I think Edge Grenadiers somehow also failed to do much. So the dice were not in my favor at the beginning, but later they were getting back. They rested well with letting me down, so they decided to spike a little bit more. And I think there was a crucial point when he haven't saw when I could get a weird flank charge of my balloons and kill some. I think there's a horde of the flying dragons, whatever. Yeah, so that I think was the tipping point when some of stuff he wavered instead of killing, and I could position better, and I could get a charge that he didn't know I could do, and I didn't know either. Just I realized, hey, wait a minute, if I just turn into this spot, I can still touch him, and that's legal. So that's a flank. So yeah, it was something like that, like I don't try to make a very far plans. I just try to see, okay, what I can do with this mess and see what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're pretty much planning for how do I control just the next turn, only, not 2 or 3 turns ahead so much.
It's mostly how many things I can kill and what I can kill, and think about the scenario later. Who needs scenario anyway? We're here for the bloodbath.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't win scenario if they're all dead.
Exactly. Wise words.
Yeah. And so then, another win. So 4-0, and then which brings you up. You bring the Bane of Robinsons to take on the Robinson in the last round. So Tom Robinson playing his undead. I to be honest, I have no idea what the structure of his list was, because often he'll just bring something that no one else will know what he's doing with it, or no one else would be able to play it as well as he does. What was the scenario, and can you remember kind of what was in his list and how this game went?
Yes. So the scenario was the I think control, when you have 6 squares to get the points, and his list was like 1 troop of defense 6 ghost, I keep forgetting how they are called, and 2 regiments of the defense 5 crushing 2 big ghosts, and then like 5 hordes of trolls. Yeah, then there was Morgoth, and I think 3 revenant characters with Surge, which he shockingly used as a chaff. So yeah, this game was shocking. It was looking quite bad at the beginning, but then he was kind enough to roll a double 1 into the very crucial charge that showed the rear of his defense 6 goes to my trolls, and I just could take them out, and stuff was happening, and Greedy Guts was a hero as always. And at the very, very end, he also failed a surge. I think he need like surge 8 on 20 dice, and he failed, which allows me to then charge rear with the Edge Grenadiers. Yes, that was the pinnacle of my not planning far ahead. My Edge Grenadiers turn away and fly behind the forest to just try to score zone, but then when he failed the surge, I realized, wait a minute, they are behind the forest, but the leader point can see that unit. It's in the front. I can rear charge. Let's abandon the plan and go for the blood first. They kill the unit with some help. So yeah, don't make big plans. Just make what life can give you, what you can bite and chew in that moment.
Oh, that's awesome. And so, of course, that took you to 5-0, and top of the table, although Chris Lynch raced up behind you. He obviously had a couple of big wins because he came in second with having lost one, and you were on 83 points and he was on 80. And then even Tom in third after losing to you was on 77. So I think that probably speaks to your play style a bit, in that particularly for something like blackjack, that you may not be getting the big swings on scenario points, that you might get attrition swings, but there's less available for attrition than there is for scenarios, so that you're probably, more often than not, I'm guessing you're winning the scenario by small margins rather than big margins.
Yeah, same with the points, because I kill a lot but also die a lot. So yeah, there's a blood and the smashed pies and running away dogs everywhere. Yeah, I think I keep it fairly even. Like I kill, but I get killed a lot. So yeah, blackjack was not my favorite scoring, and it's still not. I definitely prefer the Northern Kings, but well, at least with winning all games, it went well at the end.
Yeah, which interestingly was pretty much one of the original intents, was to reward wins better when blackjack was written, but it probably didn't. It probably still hasn't modified well enough for I mean, to get a 21, you pretty much have to just destroy someone. It's meant to be quite difficult to get a 21, but 19s and 20s probably still move you around the leaderboard maybe a bit more than they should. It's hard to say, Yeah, okay. Well, that's great. And so, of course, like I said, that took you to first spot, second highest attrition. Some other results were, what was it? Best Army went to Nick Williams. Wooden Spoon was to Danny Graves, and Best Sport was to Tim Hewitt. And that took it out for you. And so what we might do now is we'll just take a very brief break, and we'll be back to wrap up the show.
I'm Marshall Temple, and I'm the best Temple, and you're listening to Countercharge.
And welcome back. So, Radek, you've conquered with the halflings. You've mentioned that you're doing Forces of Nature now. Are you attending Clash this year? And yes, what army will make it for Clash?
That's interesting. So, as I already played a bit of halflings. Now I'm playing with Forces of Nature, and I'm enjoying the list. But the thing is, the Forces of Nature is getting less and less Mantic. And of Clash of Kings, I want to have the Mantic army more than not. So I'm thinking. I wanted to make a third army because the white stuff on 2 and you can have more. I was thinking Abyssal Dwarves, but the sad thing is they were not very popular last year, but this year it seems that everyone thought, Abyssal Dwarves are not popular, let's start playing Abyssal Dwarves, and now they're quite popular, so I'm not sure if I want to do that. I might go back with my halflings and try again with some different list, maybe take 2 regiments of Pouchers, just so tiny bit of shooting to shoot the chaff off and hold objectives. I have plenty of halflings models already painted and ready, so I just think about it.
Yeah, well, if it was Forces of Nature, you've got to be prepared to, I guess, to look Ronnie in the eye and tell him why they're not Mantic models on the table.
I think, that might say, no, don't take Forces of Nature. Either Abyssal Dwarves or Halflings. Yeah, I think you are correct. Yeah, they will stay for different tournaments.
And you've already attended a couple of tournaments, I think, in the new season, haven't you? And you mentioned, I think, that you podiumed with the Forces of Nature. How many tournaments have you attended? I can see it here actually on the website. 3 already, yes. Although one of those was Masters. Yes. So you've already attended 3, and your overall rank is still 13th. I mean, I'm assuming, does the previous Master get an automatic invite back anyway, no matter how you do this year?
Yes, but I will try to do well. I mean, I set up. Oh my gosh, I'm going to many tournaments, so hopefully we'll do quite well on them, and I'm gonna get to top 16. I don't want to get that automatic. No. I want to fight fair for my spot in the Masters.
Yeah, fair enough. Pardon me. And so, as we start to wrap up the show, are there any shout outs you'd like to give, or anything else you'd like to discuss, Radek?
Well, I would say I will give shout out to Robert, Bob, and Janet. So they was kind enough to allow me to play with the 10mm, get me to the game, making amazing events, and keep me in the game. So yeah, shout out to them for being amazing hosts, TOs, and just great people.
And if anyone wants to follow your Kings of Wars adventure, is there any way to do that other than just watching the Masters ranking and watching you smack Chris Lynch down and Tom Robinson when you're playing halflings, or is there anywhere else?
I was recorded on Clash of Kings, my game against Arthas. So yeah, I think if there's gonna be more tournaments in Steven by Death by Dragons, I might be there, and you might hear me screaming, "Go, Greedy Guts!"
All right. Well, we might leave it there. Like I said during the show, at some point we might try and make it back with a list builder with you, because I think that'll be interesting to explore, and I've really enjoyed having you on as a guest. I appreciate your time on a Thursday evening for you, nice and early in the evening. But this has been enjoyable, and we might leave it there then. Until next time, keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening. and we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.